Hey everyone, my name is Dinesh Yadav. Uh, this is my 6th year in the United States. I'm a professor of design in theater at University of Wisconsin Green Bay, but soon I will be moving to a different place. Um, the purpose of this webinar is to basically share my experience of going through EB1 A or O1, whatever you name it, category, uh, and filing it by my own self, preparing all the document uh, without hiring any attorney or anything, kind of getting any consultancies and all of that. Uh, and getting my green card along with my family. Uh, I will go one by one step, uh, and then that will give you a sense of time, how much time it took. So the backstory is that I was on a H-1B visa on EB2 category. And for many who may know it or not know it, um, you can file a EB1 category uh, I-140 by your own uh, simultaneously when your EB2 or EB3 is going on, specifically in the category of EB1A, or I call it O1, extraordinary. That saying that when you file your EB1 category, you can mention your previous A number on that file or your current I-140 number on that file. And by doing so, you basically import your earlier I-140 or your date of filing to your EB1 category. And that's how your earlier date kind of import into your new filing. Mine was, my EB2 category was approved into 2019, May 19. That was the date on it. And when I filed my EB1 category in May last year, I mentioned that. And when my petition went on, they took the date from the 2019 on it, and that's how I got my visa. Otherwise, I think the EB1 for the Indians is not current. It's on wait time. So that's a backstory. The other thing is that for filing for EB1 A category, you don't need any sponsorship or any job. I will pull up quickly the I think the information where
Right. Right.
could you please mute your phone? I would again. Right, I'll try to pull up my uh, again my Chrome, my thing. Let's share this. So this is your EB1 category eligibility one, and I'll go into this category. So if you look at the criteria into EB1, this is EB1. I'm talking about extraordinary ability, this category up here. And I'll go by one in terms of the evidence and eligibility. But as the filing requirement, you can file by your own self, and you don't need uh, to be sponsored. You can file it being within the United States or outside of the United States. So those two things are clear. Now, coming to the part of preparing for it and preparing your document, we'll talk about that. But just to kind of going through with the filing process, the process is very much similar to what is for EB2 or EB3, any of those. I think you need to file a Form 797 for I-140 uh, and uh, and the other forms along with it if they are needed. What I would generally suggest, or what was my experience, that I filed two things with my I-140 into EB1 category, the I-140 application and two other application with it, advanced payroll and EAD card, employment authorization. So in case if the USICS is taking time uh, to approve your green card, which take time, frankly speaking, it takes, within the current framework, if even if the date is current, it will take about an year. Mine was my EB1, I sent the document in May, precisely May 13th. I did a premium process. So my approval came within 15 days on 31st of May. I did not have any RFC. And then I went to India because of some work. So by the time I came, the date was not current. So I have to wait till October in order to be open for new visas. And then when in October they open it, my date was there. And then I started filing up for the actual green card. And then going through with the medical also take time getting appointment through these medicals and getting your TB test. And for Indians, in most possible scenarios, almost everyone I know, they have at least 1 to 2 times of their TB test positive until you go through like 3 4 time test, and that process take time too. So just keep in mind that time. So in total, though my case was really super fast, my green card came, I think, this year February. All the second part, so be prepared for that timeline. The second part, file for everyone in your family, if your family is with you, like your kids or your spouse, along with the same form. When you file with the same form, it's very likely, or is most cases, your green card and all of your sort of inquiries, everything comes together. And that's what I would suggest, that don't leave your family member hanging around, that you will file for them later on. I would not suggest for that. Um, so those are kind of little bit of early preparation in order to for the document. I will probably do another webinar on all of those forms. This will probably talk mostly about the criteria. So let's quickly jump on to criteria. Now, I will not go on to outstanding professor and researcher or certain multinational manager. Their qualification is pretty much listed there. For an outstanding professor, your institution has to apply for it. And I tell you that I am a tenured professor at a university. Can you please mute? Can you please mute while I'm talking? Thank you. Um, my institution did not file my EB1. They said that they will not. Um, but if you are an outstanding professor and your university agree to file it, uh, file through outstanding professor and researcher. A multinational manager, again, the criteria is very clear. If you draw a certain amount of salary and you are an executive into multinational, that's a third category. I will not talk about that because in those two category, outstanding professors and certain multinational, your company or your organization has to file. I'll talk most primarily about this extraordinary ability. Now, if you see up here in the category, it clearly state that you must meet at least 3 of the 10 criteria below or provide evidence of one-time achievement, e.g. Pulitzer, Oscar, Olympic medal, or as well as evidence showing that you will be continuing to work in the area of your expertise. No offer of employment or labor certification is required. So the requirement is clearly labeled here. Now, if you are a high achiever, like if you do have a Pulitzer, Oscar, or Olympic, I'm pretty sure you want to be here in this June meeting. So I'm assuming that you fall into either these categories. That 3 out of 10 criteria. And now let's move to that part three, what are these 10 criteria? So if you look up here, in order to demonstrate you have sustained national or international acclaim. So I want to just explain what sustained mean. Um, so when you,
Another.
can you please mute Manali? Uh, Sustained national or international acclaim means that in the area in which you are filing, and when you say area, that what is your expertise. So in my case, I filed into in artistic category, but within the artistic category, my specialization is design, and within the design, my specialization is theater design. So none of the attorney were able to understand it, because the attorneys mostly work into very limited area, which is like very clearly labeled category. And in most of the cases, I found that with India, people comes with enormous amount of and kind of qualities and work. So it's extremely important that you understand your area in which you are working. So let's say if you are a computer programmer and you have 10, 12, 15 years of work into computer programming, and if you have done something really interesting, remarkable, then I would count that sustained national and international acclaimed. Now, when it comes to acclaim, that's again a very interesting word to understand what acclaimed means. If you look at the qualification, it clearly states that either you have achieved those Pulitzer or Nobel Prize or fulfill these three. So when it's a claim, that means it does not asking you to provide something like your Nobel Prize, but something which can tell that you have progressively progress into your field. That you may started as something really like on a small scale, or with a very small qualification, but in the last 10, 15 years, you have achieved uh, consecutively, year by year, progressively in that field. The next part is that your achievement have been recognized in your field of expertise. Now, who will recognize your expertise? That's again, when it's a recognize in your field of expertise. So either is recognized by the companies, by the people, by the professionals, and we'll come to that part when we discuss about these evidence. But this again, recognizing can sometimes also misleading, that you will think that, oh, recognize means that I have to have some sort of award, or someone gives me some sort of award. People fell in trap with those kind of things. But recognize could be by like simplest thing, that your community member recognize your work in the community where you work. You may be a school teacher working in a school, and it is your community which recognize your work. And believe me, I'm helping a school teacher to file into EB1. So just to give you a sense that where it can go. You must either include evidence of one-time achievement, which we talk about, or 3 out of 10 listed criteria, or compatible. Now, this is the within the bracket. What is here? It is important. Compatible evidence if any of the criteria do not readily apply. So that gives us a leverage to go beyond these criteria, which is listed there, and build your own criteria, which can probably loosely fit into these criterias. So it not necessarily be what it is saying there, like these 10 criteria, but could be a criteria which you can define that as a criteria. You can say that again, I'm using like anything which I don't know, but in my case, let's say I defined how design is such an important field in theater, and why I am out of the 5% in the world. So defining your area is extremely important, because in the contemporary world, our area, it's a very complex world, and our expertise can be really, really minute and micro level expertise, which may not fit into all these, elaborated these broader areas. Now let's go quickly to these evidence. Evidence of receipt of lesser nationally or internationally recognized prize or award for excellence. Now, for each category, I would suggest at least have minimum 3 evidence more is always good. Now, what look like the internationally, nationally recognized prize? Sometimes we think like, award like Scout, NSS, NCC may not work, but I tell you they work in terms of the sustainable national and international acclaim or sustainable national presence. So start building from your like, your first grade, second grade award onward and collect everything till now. And that will kind of become one big bucket in order to present that you have sustained in your field, right? So that's the prizes area. It could be, it's always better that these prizes comes or award comes from a non-profit, nationally, internationally recognized bodies like, Rotary Club, Lions Club, Scout, NCC, NSS, some President Award or some sort of, a governor's award or regional level of award. So um, uh, college level award, all of that will count into this. The second is evidence of your membership in association in the field which demand outstanding achievement of their member. Now, be very, very clear and careful about fulfilling this requirement. This does not uh, count any paid membership. It specifically count on memberships which is honorary and which is basically invited basis. Um, Now, uh, you know, your area may be a really small micro area where may not be like a great big national level, international level of organization. But if there are local organization, if there are state level organization, if there are like county level organization, you can always bring that in. Evidence of published material about you in professional or major trade publication or other major media. Now, this counts also newspaper, uh, journals, trade magazines, media, electronic media, as well as print media. Um, if someone wrote some blog about you, but personality has to be, the person who is writing has to be a person of some caliber. So it matter where, uh, you know, what has been written about you, where it is has been written about you, and who is writing about you. These three things, remember. So who wrote, what is the capacity, caliber, and recognition of that person, what has been written, rather just mentioning name that someone was there in that presence or someone was there in that meeting does not count. It has to be substantial. And then where it's been written, articles into, let's say, into Wall Street Journal about you make more sense than articles into, let's say, a blog into some sort of a regional website or, an open blog. Next is evidence that you have been asked to judge the work of other either individually or panel. Uh, uh, this may count, you can count like going and judging a school competition, but it's also uh, can count if you've been a judge, a referee, a panel panelist, a reviewer of a journal or someone's work, or uh, judging someone's patents. So all of that work, anything, just think about it. Last time when someone asked me to evaluate what, even a simple research paper or a simple article which someone asks you to review it can count into that level, right? Evidence of your original scientific, scholarly, artistic, athletic, or business-related contribution of major significance to the field. Um, any new research, any new model, any new product, any new writing, all of that will count into it. Your original work. Even if you, let's say, make something very simplistic, like, how to uh, how to divide electricity into three phase. I'm just kind of randomly saying it. That will count into it, but it has to be your original. And then later on, significance can build upon it. It could be a product into, or could be a thing into its early phase and can build upon it. Everything will count. Evidence of your authorship or scholarly article in professional or major trade publication or other major media. Now, the articles in professional major trade publication is clear. Other major media, comes electronic media, again, websites, blog posts, trade magazines, online articles, everything again count on it here. Evidence that your work has been displayed at artistic exhibitions or showcase is very clear here. I don't need to explain it. If you are an artist, evidence of your performance of leading a critical role in distinguished organization. Now, there are two things here. Your critical role. So make identifying your role, how it is critical, explaining that, and distinguished organization. Now, you may be working in a very small organization, let's say a school in a county level. You will think that, oh, how this organization is a distinct organization. But it can become a distinct organization if it is serving to a very specific community, and that for that community it is distinguished. So just think about it, how to make the case in a way that the organization fulfills the criteria of distinguishedness. And then when it comes to critical role, it could be as simple as a teacher of English writing. Your role is critical for those students who are studying there. And if you take away from there, if you move away from there, that means it is a disservice to those all of students, just for an example. So think from that broader eye about it, that how to make that role sound critical, that if you leave the organization, that the organization's basic structure will collapse or will shake at least. The last two part, evidence that you command a high salary or significant high remuneration in relation to other in the field. That again, when it in relation to other. So let's say in an organization, there are 500 people and your salary comes into top 10 people. But Jyoth, can you please mute? And in that salary, when it's a high remuneration, the gap between your position and rest of the employee matters equally, as well as the number on your salary. You may be having a salary of 200,000 per year, but if rest of the employee in your organization is having, let's say, 50,000, that means you within that organization is having a high salary, right? The last is evidence of your commercial success in the performing art. I don't need to explain it. It's self-explanatory. If you, when it says success in performing art, that will count ticket sales, shows per year. If you have done, multiple shows, number of shows, venues where you have done those shows, and how many tickets sold, or how many visitors visited those shows, or audience saw those shows. So those are uh, the basic qualification. It says up here that you need 3 out of 10. In contemporary scenario, with the USICS, when Indians, even the EB1 is, I think, backlog is not current. I would say try to fulfill 6 at least out of the 10. In order to qualify or in order to have better chance. Now, I quickly will go to this volume 6, para 6 part. Up here on that link, each category is explained in detail here. Sustained national, international acclaim, continuing to work in the area of expertise, entry to substantially benefit the United States, evidence of extraordinary ability. So it's all up here on this website. So go and check this and see whether you qualify or not, or whether you have chance or not. I will stop sharing here. I want to kind of, before opening up this session for question, I want to say that in my experience of asking to attorneys, I think I knocked the door of about 10 to 12 attorneys. At least 6 say no directly to me, and 6 to 8 says they will charge me 16,000, 20,000, like exorbitant amount of money. Right? I will come to the recommendation part and all of that. So I came back and I thought that, do I really wanted to go through that route? when there is no guarantee from anybody, right? So I sit down. I think what I would say that it's what matters understanding your own uh, qualification. First of all, if you think that your qualification at least match 25% of what is laid there, I would say you have chance. So first, understanding your own qualification. Second is preparing your file in a way that it makes sense for the USICS. The people who are there, they may not be expertise in your field. And it's very certain that they may not be expertise in every single field. What they're looking is how you define your categories in order to fulfill their criteria, right? But they are also not sitting there to approve every single application. Um, so second is presenting your case in a way that it makes sense. And third, making your application accessible, presenting it physically, making it in a way that is most accessible for like a layman, for like a graduate to go through with it in order to find evidence, in order to go read your narrative and all of that. Now, last thing about the recommendation letter. There is a myth about recommendation letter that the recommendation letter, matters a lot. Uh, I tell you, you can have recommendation letter as simple as from a school principal. What matters that in your area for which you are taking the recommendation, um, the person who is providing you recommendation, what is the person's capability, who is writing for you, and then what this person is writing about you. Those two things matter most. Most of the people also make a mistake. They go copy paste a reference letter and send it to everyone, and then those reference referees will send literally copy pasting all of those reference letter. That's a big mistake you will do. USICS officer will literally kind of go through your reference letter and can immediately check that all these reference letter are copy paste and maybe fraud and forced. So don't fall into that trap at all. Let your referee write the letter by themselves, no matter what kind of writing they are using, how great they are in English or not. It's what matter that in simplest language, what they're writing in the letter. That's what it's matter and who they are. Um, I stop here and I will invite questions. If you do have a specific question, if I go back to chat, it will might take like a lot time. But I will ask you open your microphone or maybe raise your hand and I will allow one by one in order to make the serenity of the Zoom meeting and then ask your question one by one. And then at the end, last 10 minutes, I'll go through with the Zoom with the chat.
Hi Dinesh, thank you so much for your webinar and thank you for sharing your experience. Just I have a question. So can we get a recommendation letter from India
You can
from
get
my supervisor, manager?
absolutely, you can get it. But it's always good to have your recommendation letter comes from different countries, from different field where you work, and also different positions. You might have worked into two, three capacities. So all of the recommendation letter from all of those places where you have worked earlier. That shows that at every stage of your life, someone admire your work.
Okay, thank you so much.
Mhm.
Hey Dinesh, a quick question. So there are 10 criteria, three are mandatory. So do you think we should only target certain three criteria or more than three?
So, in my experience, I would say, most of the Indian who are filing into EB one category, they will fulfill minimum three criteria. Your chance are better if you fulfill more than three criteria. Um, Remember, they have more application than what they can approve. Just looking at the backlog. So that does not means that if you fulfill all the three criteria that you will have chance to, it's assured that you will get your green card. That does not written anywhere in their website that it's assured that, once you fulfill these criteria, you will get your green card. It's clearly on the discretion of the person who is evaluating your case and understanding of your case by that person. Did I make any sense?
Yeah, yeah, sure. So you what you meant to say is if you have or select for more than criteria, if you are eligible, better post that um, as long as you have. Okay, got it. Thanks.
Yeah.
Hi Dinesh, my name is Moin. So for this EB1 category, do we need to like manually provide the testimonial letters and the reference letters, or do we need to publish the papers in our field?
Yeah, so out of the 10 criteria, there is one criteria which is publishing your work. It's not necessary, but if you are in academia, it helps that you publish your paper. It's not necessary that your paper is, it Google cited. It's always helpful if you do have Google citations. But you may publish into journals which may not be listed on Google. One of the professor I help in chemistry, I think most of his journals were not into Google listed. But if you are in academia, I would say it's always good that you publish.
And
Yeah.
the testimonial, do we need to get from our,
Uh,
sorry if I cut down.
Go ahead, Moin.
Yeah, so the testimonial from our peers, do you think it will make more weightage if you have like testimonial from the persons whom we have worked
Okay, so Moin, you cut through, but I think I understood your question. It's
in
your
our
reference.
past?
Yeah, so the reference letter, in my experience, ask if you do have a reference letter for each area. So if you are fulfilling three criteria, if you do have a reference letter for each criteria, that make sense. And I think that is, I would say, minimum you try to provide. Um, it does not also help in terms of bringing so many reference letters, because that means you are overweighting on reference letter and that you maybe there is no substance in your other work. So it's kind of a really fine balance between what you are providing in your document and then supplementing it. Just, kind of listen to this, supplementing your work with reference letter. So reference letter is more like a supplementary evidence, is more like a pudding on your laddu, than actual, content. So reference letter is not the content, is a decoration. I have four hand raised. I will go one by one. Uh, Raman, go ahead, please.
I just want to know what are the costs involved by going ourselves? I mean, the generic fees and the wait times if I don't want to go with premium process.
So Raman, co-star, I think they are laid down there into the website. Go and check. If I am not mistaken, last time when I filed, $1,400 for each case was there. And then I think there were premium process fees. In a ballpark, I think if I total cost, I go back and look into in terms of doctor's fees and all these premium process and fees for three people. My cost was, I think, about 7,000.
Got it. Thank you. And one last question. For example, if this EB1 category application was denied, does it affect my EB2 or EB3 current application?
No, it's
Got
a standalone application. It can denied, it can have RFC, it can, denied 5 times. It has no consequence on. as per my current knowledge and as per the current USICS website, it does not.
Thank you.
Okay, next, Sudip. Okay, go ahead, Sudip.
Hi, Dinesh. This is Sudeep. I'm just asking you, suppose a candidate, like, as far as my case, I'm belong to the IT background and I have, I think, 25 years of experience. And I'm not in a IT company right now, but serving a utility company. And I have several big awards. I know I have won from the different companies.
Mhm.
Suppose if I prove them, one of the award is, I mean, one of the highest award in the company, those will work for me to file.
So award is, Sudip, is one category. And I think if when kind of listening to you, it looks like that those award will work in your category. But remember, award is 1 out of the 10. You would need to have fulfill other 3 categories as well. But what I'm assuming now, again, understanding that if you do have award, that means you have some sort of substantial work.
Yeah.
So if you go back and look at that work, think about, can that work fulfill the other requirement? If that work has fulfilled the other requirement, has anything written about those work? Can that fulfill the other requirement? So is taking that one, if someone is kind of unmuted and talking to, from the background, please mute. So going and thinking about that and looking at all the evidence which comes with that award, and go in terms of work, in terms of, retrospective from today, go into the past. Vivek, can you please mute? So, so that I would suggest. Do you have any other questions, Sudeep?
No, so award is one criteria. Another criteria could be the recommendation letter, right?
No, recommendation letter is not a criteria.
Not a criteria. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Manali,
Hey, Dinesh.
uh, I see Manali's hand first. Could I
Uh,
give Manali a chance, please? Manali Shah?
yes. Am I audible?
Yes.
Hello. So hi Dinesh. I have a question. So in case if I'm planning to keep an attorney, right? So at what stage should I approach an attorney? Like, should I prepare my documents first and then approach them, or they will guide me on what all things I need about it?
That's, Manali, completely on you. How confident you feel about preparing your document, and then, how, at what stage you confident about going to the attorney. In my experience, generally, they charge from the very beginning, from their first phone call. So, I think I'm probably not the right person to answer that question, as I did not go through with them. But
Okay.
it's on you. When you feel confident, go through with that, requirement list to USICS website and see, whether how confident you feel about preparing those document, and take a decision.
Mhm. And you mentioned that you received some rejections from few attorneys, right? So even I am from a background which is not very well recognized, I would say. And so in that case, in case if attorneys, like what should be my criteria when I approach an attorney? Should they have some knowledge about my field? Should that be one of the criteria for me?
So I'll answer this question only in a way, in my experience. Okay.
Hmm.
I I think it does not matter what is your criteria. I think what, for me, let's say, they rejected my case, attorneys, because they did not feel confident about it, whether they will get it. They thought that they might be, wasting their time, and, or maybe they were not confident about the case. I don't know what was their feeling about it. My sense and experience of talking to these attorneys, in most of the cases, attorneys are very specific about criterias into EB1, EB2, EB1, especially, they will go with the list and will literally see what you fulfill. So if you are a professor, they will go and literally ask you your Google citation page. That's the first thing they ask me.
Hmm.
If you are an artist, they will literally ask, how many sales you have and where did you perform, right? If you are in a technologist, they ask you how many patent you do have. So these are kind of, set questions they ask. So I think probably you wanted to talk to them and tell that who you are, what is your educational background, and see if they feel confident.
Okay. Okay. Sure.
Thank you. Naveen?
Hey Dinesh, firstly, thank you for conducting the session. My question, initial question, is pertaining to the original contribution. So I have a query on the count of evidences that we show. For original contribution, just say it's for citations for the scholarly articles, and I come from technology background, yet I make an attempt to do some scholarly articles, writings. Does citation matter? If it matters, how many citations does that original contribution ask for usually? Is there any count?
So, Naveen, if you are not into academia, if you are not a professor, I
Mhm.
would doubt whether the citation matter. I think when it comes to original contribution, it defining your work in a way that it it make its own importance. So for
Okay.
example, one of my book which I wrote has no citation by the time I file this application.
Mhm.
But what matter that what the content book carry and the population it serve. That's what matter. You can back that up by some data and some research, right? Some back data and some back research. So let's say, if you have make a centrifugal machine, uh, and it's the simplest thing you made, and you think that, I don't have patent and I don't have citation, but if you think that, it's serve a large number of population and tomorrow will be a thing of importance, that
Mhm.
matter, right? So
Yeah. So good, Dinesh, that you brought up. My next question is pertaining to the authorship of the book, and this is a self-published book, very authentically written, and got it done. Done out. Now, does the publisher is important here? Does it matter?
if it is book, it is. It don't fall into the self-published trap, I would say. If I use the word trap because you will use your time to write that, publish that, and all of that. And when it comes to counting it, immediately it go into the category of self-publish, and that immediately raise questions. Whether you are self-boasting yourself or whether you have really content in your application. So I would not suggest that.
Okay, okay. And the design if you are from IT background and just a design approved design patent, will that do anything? Does it add any weightage to the criteria?
I I think so. Yes. It clearly
Oh,
comes into
oh,
the category of
thank you, Dinesh.
original work. All right. Next is Vivek.
Hey, Dinesh, thank you so much for hosting this.
Uh-huh.
Quick question. So I do have multiple of them. So the first one is, does Ivy League education or having multiple degrees, uh, does it make any weightage into the application? So just to give an example, I do have MBA from India, MS here, and recently I completed a program from IIM. uh, would that give any weightage, or it all needs to fall under either of these categories?
In if those done in a progressive matter, that it it fulfill that sustained work. If it is
Hmm.
if comes in a way that you have done um, those degrees in order to make yourself more contemporary, usable, more valuable for the community for which you are working, it does.
Awesome.
Your degrees from all of the institutions matter. Um, it- but it comes again as a supportive evidence. It's again
Mhm.
like a pudding on the top of your material. When you say that I fulfill these three categories, and with a background of these things, then it counts that you, okay, this person has done these kind of work and then lead to do these sort of, actual work into the field. In that matter, it does.
ठीक है.
So, just to add to that, so right now I'm doing some a few things on that generative AI or machine learning and all those. Those are kind of hot topics. Would that support the application?
They will come into, if you look into the second page, they will come into the national importance topic, that how your work is important to the nation. And if you make your case in a way, or your qualification in a way, that it for it it gives a USICS officer that this work is in the importance of the nation, that means United States, it will add to that.
Okay, sounds good. This really helps. Thank you so much.
The last one, the Shahpad, heart inter.
Hi. Hi, Dinesh. My name is Reena. Actually, sorry, it's my office account. So, my question is like, this is for my husband. He is multi-talented.
Jeevan, can you mute, please? Jeevan.
Hello.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry.
Hold on,
Uh,
please. I would request everyone, please, when someone is talking, please mute, because otherwise, recording this does not make any sense. Thank you so much. Please go ahead.
So my question is, Dinesh, my husband is multi-talented, like which I mean to say he is a artist. He's a self-taught artist, and also he's a Spanish teacher, though he's an Indian, and also he's a pastor for a church. So, like, does the 10 points have to be in a specific field, or can they be multiple? Like,
So, Reena, if you read the first line, it says sustained in national or international work into the field. So the sustained means that in a particular area. Now it
Okay,
catch, don't get disheartened. If
right.
you can make your file in a way, or if you can make your case in a way that all of those work connect with each other. So I give you my example. I have a PhD in chemistry, and then I moved to theater. Now, there is no relationship between chemistry and theater, but there is a relation between chemistry and theater, right? That you have to identify and make it that the officer who is reading it actually can see it, that, oh, yes, these things make relationship. They are in relationship with each other. Frankly speaking, I mean, no field is an absolute field. Every field is a, all of the fields are kind of organic field and goes into each other. So that's what I would suggest, that sit and
So,
think about it.
would you personally like help? I mean, I heard you saying you're helping someone file some teacher. So, would you personally help someone like that, or
I would love to. And I'm a full-time person. I'm full-time in the sense I'm a full-time professor in university, right? This whole message and replying to everyone's message was my too much texting for my whole
I
day,
understand.
right?
That's so nice of you to do this.
But thank you so much. But I also wanted to, avoid any spam or any useless sort of, copying and pasting things. In
Right, right.
my experience, all these cases has to be unique, very specifically written, which tells about individual's capacity, and
All
then
right.
then it makes sense for them. Um, so I would love to help. Depends on timing. And again, it won't be free.
Of course, it makes sense. So, have you seen any luck within the religious? I know that is something very like not is something you see in every day-to-day life, like in the religious areas, like pujaris or pastors or
Uh, it, it, it- I'm I'm afraid I don't have much knowledge at current. I have to read about it. I think through this whole webinar, I'm trying to say that it's what it matters is not trying, that you try, and before
Right.
you
At least give
try,
it a try. Right.
and before you try, you sit with your evidence and sit cleverly and mindfully on those evidence and think about how to make sense of those evidence. I give you an example. In my 5th grade, I was into a presentation in Republic Day presentation, and I have that certificate in my hand, and I use that. Right. So it's what it matters that how you present the case is extremely important.
I understand.
And most of the time, I
So,
think
what's the best way to keep in touch with you, Dinesh?
I will put at the end of this meeting, if someone has more questions, I will put my email ID into
Okay.
the chat. You can take that email ID. I will respond to your questions as it go. I also created a Google form just to get a better sense of who is where, and I'll put the link for that Google form also.
Yeah. And also, can you please share this recording so we can share it with friends?
So I need to upload it onto YouTube and then I'll do that.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Hello, I have a question.
Go ahead, please. And I'm sorry, I think I can take maybe 2 more questions very quickly, and then rest maybe individually we can talk. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, so actually, I have a simple question regarding one of the evidence that is required, which says, you need to judge work of others, or or be on a panel. So my question is, does this work of judge need to be in the field that you're applying?
It's good if it is. If it is not, then you have to make connection. So, for example, let's say I went to judge a work of a chemistry competition, for example, and I'm not talking about my chemistry examination, but let's say I went there as an artist to judge that competition. What is the criteria I was judging? Can I define that? Was I judging the aesthetic and beauty of the presentation? Then it will make sense, right? So, again, I'm saying that it's what it matters how you present it. Did I make sense?
Yeah, but like, I mean, let's say we are just providing evidence. Do we get to write like an essay kind of thing, which we to make connect with what we are doing? How do we make sure they understand that I am trying to connect in a way?
So for every application, before every application, you have to put a what is called a cover letter.
Mhm.
And in that cover letter, you can write about and make those connections.
Okay.
Yeah, is the cover letter which goes that is on the top of your file, describing all of your evidence. That is extremely, extremely important. I think in my experience, most of the time, your USICS officer read that cover letter and nothing else. Maybe I'm not sure, because the files are generally very, very heavy.
Thank you.
All right. Okay, so friends, I will stop here recording it, and then in the